'Tis the season for king cake. Season right after Christmas, actually. That is an almost finished king cake. Ooh, spun sugar. Ah, a little spun sugar there. Unintentional spun sugar. I have that problem 6-7 times a day. So what this is a king cake, the recipe for which I found at foodandwine.com. I've never made this recipe before, so this is a first. And here's how I got to this point. So starting last night, I took 2.5 cups of bread flour, 2/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and 2 teaspoons yeast, and whisked that all up. I took 2 eggs at room temperature and whisked them in the bowl of a stand mixer. Added a cup of whole milk. The recipe called for 2 tablespoons of lard. I just used 2 tablespoons of butter. I don't have any lard. The only lard I have is attached to my body. So I went with 2 tablespoons of butter instead. Added the flour mix, and with the dough hook, kneaded this until it started to form into dough. Then I added a 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, a 5-finger pinch of salt, and turned the mixer back on. Next, I added 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter at room temperature, 1 tablespoon at a time, until each tablespoon was incorporated into the dough. Once all the butter was fully incorporated, I increased the speed of the mixer to medium and let it go for another 7 minutes until it really all came together, scraping down the sides of the mixer as needed. I moved the dough to a baking sheet that I sprayed with some non-stick spray, covered it with plastic wrap, and shoved it in the fridge overnight. Then this morning I took it out of the fridge, split it into 2, rolling each piece into about a 6x12 inch triangle, and then I made my filling. The filling is 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, a 1/4 cup of light brown sugar, a heaping tablespoon of ground cinnamon, another 1/4 cup of unsalted butter at room temperature, a pinch of salt, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I used my hand mixer for this, didn't quite break it down enough, so I got down and dirty with my digits. Once it was a collective cinnamon sugar paste, I split it into 2 and smeared each half onto the rolled out dough. Then I rolled up the dough like a cinnamon roll, repeated this whole step with the other half of the dough, and then rolled each roll out until it was like 2 feet long. You just said roll too many times. I know I did. I'm sorry. You're saying a lot of things too many times. I'm going on. I don't have a script here. Once they were about 2 feet long each, I coiled them together and then formed it into a circle and tried my best to pinch the edges neatly together, but I'm not a doctor. I covered this in plastic wrap again and let it sit for about 2 hours until it was nice and puffy. Then I slid it into a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes, rotating the pan once halfway through until it looked like this. This recipe calls for a caramel crunch topping, which I find to be extra, and that's why I've never made this recipe before, but I'm feeling extra today. Into a saucepan, I added 1/2 cup of sugar, approximately 1/2 teaspoon of light corn syrup, and a 1/4 cup of water. I stirred this all together before I turned the heat on and then blasted it on high until it started to boil. Then I kept the heat up like this for about 7 more minutes until it was a light amber color, and then I just spooned it as evenly as I could over the king cake. So now here we are, but this has to set before I can do the next step, so time for a drink. In keeping with today's theme, I'm going to make a Sazerac. Start with 1 dash of Angostura bitters, 3 dashes of Peychaud's bitters, and go with a scant 1/4 ounce of a rich syrup. This is a gum syrup that I made, so it's a little bit thicker. 1/2 ounce of Cognac, and 1.5 ounces of rye whiskey. I'm gonna take a chilled glass and give it a good spritz with some absinthe. Give this a good Danny Whiz bang. Strain this into my glass. Espresso lemon peel over the top. Give it to Johnny Dogs. Clean it up. Lay it on top. Sazerac. To the confusion of our enemies. Oh, it's such a treat. That's a treat. That's a treat. Now the other thing that I can do before I frost this puppy, it needs a baby inside of it. I used to have a king cake baby that came straight from Randazzo's in New Orleans, but I lost it somewhere along the way. So you can put a nut in, but I have found that a lot of the times the nut gets eaten and no one realizes they ate it. So I dug around in the toy box and found a Mr. Potato Head ear. So I'm just gonna cram the Mr. Potato Head ear. This is oddly satisfying. So whoever finds the Mr. Potato Head ear will have good luck for a year and also have to make next year's king cake. All right, gotta do the frosting. I have 4 ounces of cream cheese. Beat this till it's smooth. Now I'm adding 420 grams of powdered sugar, 1/3 at a time. Once all the powdered sugar is mixed in, I add a 1/4 cup of milk, a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla paste, and then I evenly spread it all over the king cake. As is tradition, the cake gets decorated with alternating gold, green, and purple sprinkles to signify something. I'd have to Google it. You can Google it. It's important, it's nice. And that's it. So about 18 hours later, I can finally carve into this damn thing and just hope that I'm the one that gets the ear.